Trigger is nothing but like an event. Whenever some event happens in database, it is a kind of DML statements: insert, update, delete. During that time, if you want to do any changes or if you want to do any alerts, you want to do it. In that case, we'll use the triggers. So there are different type of triggers. After trigger, instead of trigger. So after trigger is nothing but like the trigger will be happen after the statement executed. Instead of trigger will be happen the statement in the trigger whatever we say, after that only the insert or update statement will get executed. Okay. So here I'm going to give an example of one of the trigger. So we want to restrict a timing operation. Example, I want to restrict it. If you want to perform any insert or update, you cannot do after a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. In case if you don't want to do it after the 9 a.m., I mean within the 9 a.m. and after the maybe here if between the 6 means it is a 4 a.m. 4 p.m. So if anything, user should not do any update or delete anything within this out of this time, then we can raise a trigger so that that statement will get stopped during this time. So now I'm trying to execute this trigger. So create a trigger, trigger name on which table, EMP, create trigger name on EMP which table. What is the trigger? We are going to write it after insert. So which statement? Insert, update, delete, those statements we have to write it as begin. So we are going to declare an integer here, and after that, so the date time, I'm going to get the current date time. So this date time I'm assigning it here. So here get date hours I'm trying to get it. If the hours is not between 9 and 16, I'm going to roll back. So the transaction whatever happens, it will get roll back and cannot perform DML operations. Now we are going to get this message. We are going to raise an error. So that will be get happened. So let me execute this new query. So just I want to show you to select what is the current time. If you can see 21, it's already 9 p.m. So 21 it has happened here. So in the 21 means 9 p.m. So we are going to write a trigger saying that if it is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So this trigger I executed it. I am going to delete from EMP. I'm going to execute it. So if you can see, cannot perform DML operation now. What we are trying to say, we are restricting it using a trigger. We are restricting it the DML operation because we have given a time 9 to 16. If I say example, I am going to take select star from EMP. So here I am going to take an example of employee number where EMP number is equal to, so I'm going to execute, delete this. So it should not happen. It is not happening. I'm going to alter this trigger. I am adjusting the time here. So 21, right? So I'm making as an a 22 so that I'm adjusting the time. So now if I try to delete it, it should get deleted. One row get affected. If you can see this, the row is get affected. Okay. So this is the one of the use case which will be which we can use it for the trigger. So mostly trigger will be in case of identify anything happening in database. So somebody is updating in your table, but you don't know where to track, how to track from, because you have a multiple systems are contacting it this database. So if you want to identify that when it is happening, so all these things we can control it using a trigger. So during that time, whenever insert happens, so I want to added that record into some separate table and say that okay, this time some insert is happened. So in during that time, what are the jobs are running, what are the queries are running, we can get a profiler and we can identify it who is running it, so that who is using the table till we can identify it and we can inform them about the table we are going to deprecate it, something like that. So those are all different use cases we can do during our real-time scenarios. So I am going to show on one more example which is related to after trigger. So just now we have showed that before trigger. So now I'm going to discuss about instead trigger. So here in this example, I want to know if somebody inserted some data into select star from DEPT, execute, insert into DEPT values. So here I'm going to insert a 70 department number. So department name, testing, location, trigger. So this is I'm going to verify it. So what I have to do means whenever somebody is inserted, I want to capture this record. So I'm going to do it with the instead trigger. So below is an instead trigger. So here I'm going to create a trigger name on DPT, what are the table name, instead of the trigger name is instead of, I'm going to do it only the insert statement, begin, insert into DEPT, select DEPT. So we are going to make it as an uppercase. So here we are going to capture whatever we are trying to do, user is trying to do, insert value. I want to make it as an uppercase. I want to make it as a lowercase. That this one I want to make it as a lowercase, and I want to insert into the DPT. My goal is whatever the user is trying to do insert. I don't want to take that original exact value. I want to do department name as an uppercase, and the other one location name also I want to make it as an uppercase in my table. That is my target. So that one I can achieve via using this trigger. So here I'm going to execute this trigger. So I'm going to try to execute this insert statement. Now the statement is inserted, if you can see. So now automatically even I inserted testing T is a cap small, remaining all capital, T remaining all small. Here also only two are capital, another one is small, but everything is inserted as in a capital here because we have returned trigger instead of trigger. So before inserting something, we are going to manipulate that values here, and that is the trigger related to instead of the trigger.